Angle coming at you live. Quick update on a few things that are going on. Y'all can check me out at Just the Right Angle, where I do updates on issues that affect you. I heard about this, I think, yesterday and decided I would do a quick describe about that. I'll wait for just a little bit for folks to catch up because I know I got to put my links out. I'm trying to get this to where I can have some audio or something beforehand, but that's kind of in the works now. This isn't, of course, my main job. You can follow me at justtherightAngle.com. Also on YouTube, Keep Arkansas Legal, MeWe, Parlor, and Gab. Oh, it's had a long, extensive weekend. Lots of events coming up. For those who don't know, several Republican Party committees will be having their conventions to decide who goes to the state convention. Of course, the Republican Party is the main party of the state. It has a supermajority in the Arkansas legislature. It also has majorities in of course, they run all of the constitutional offices: governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state. And for all intents and purposes, will probably be in charge after this next election. But sadly, where the Republican Party of Arkansas has been failing, and one of many attributes, is in regards to trying to reform these blue sections, these blue cities that are in the state. And one of those is the city of Little Rock. Little Rock has for a long time been dominated by the left. And there's multiple reasons for that. One is demographics. There's a large minority population city of Little Rock. There's also 3 colleges within the metropolitan area, at least that I know of: University of Arkansas Philander Smith, UALR, and Pulaski Tech. I don't know if you could call Shorter a college. I guess you could call that a college as well. And then, of course, this is also the home of government. So a lot of government officials are here, and a lot of the consultants that actually run our government, like Chris Caldwell, Chase Duggar, they usually infest this area as well. And so because of that, Little Rock is, for those reasons, you're going to have Little Rock as being mainly a blue city, as you would call it politically. So this story came out here yesterday. Little Rock concerning a weekend curfew amid crime concerns. Little Rock Mayor Frank Scott Jr., who is not only just a Democrat, but an avowed leftist. He's a big supporter of BLM, all things leftist. He's just as leftist as George Soros, Nancy Pelosi, Bill Gates, any of those type of people. This is basically a citywide weekend curfew for anyone under 18. The curfew will run from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, beginning April 6th, 17th, and continuing to September 6th. Basically, most of the summer and I guess part of the school year. Which begs the question, I don't know who's staying out or where they're going. City leaders had initially planned to extend curfew hours during the summer months, but recent reports of illegal activity involving groups of young people accelerated the timeline. The measure being enforced by the Little Rock Police Department. Now, I don't know if they're just going to see people walking down the street or if they're going to pull people over or not. Or city-sponsored events like, well, I don't know if they're going to do Riverfest or not. I don't even know if they still do that. And of course, the typical liberal response to crime is to have a bunch of youth programs, because that'll somehow stop them from committing crime. Of course, it won't work. Most of the people committing crimes are often repeat criminals. Of course, a lot of them are in the country illegally. Here's a crime map I had earlier, and this is from a group called crimegrade.org. They give Little Rock a D minus. There's the cost of crime. Mariana, Arkansas, it's actually a little higher in crime, but there's the overall of the U.S. So we may not be the worst city. Little Rock may not be the worst city, but it's certainly not the best. And you can see all those stats. I'll actually post this link here so people can see it. But basically, yeah, this section here, Little Rock and North Little Rock, are some of the most dangerous places to be. Right about here is where Mayor Frank Scott Jr. wanted to do that multi-million-dollar, I don't know what you call it, urban park, which would have ended up being multi-million-dollar project. It would have connected somewhere of these two neighborhoods, which, by the way, these don't even have very many people in them at all. It would have been right over the interstate, so you'd be, as Steve Finnegan said, breathing truck fumes while you're eating your breakfast of the park or lunch or whatever. And yeah, Mayor Frank Scott Jr. is an absolute failure. And there is some good news, is that he is up for election. There is a chance to vote him out. And once moreover, there is a decent opponent that's running against him. And here she is, BJ Wyrick. She is actually she's part of the city council. And she wants to, basically focus on doing what a mayor should do, which is not pet projects, but actually cleaning up town. Now, the real question is, will the Republican Party back her, and more importantly, give the same resources into backing her as they did to keep Republicans out of power? Just a quick reminder for those who don't know, the Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Chris Caldwell and the crew of New Generation spent close to about $1 million, or maybe even more than that, trying to keep conservatives from gaining power, mainly over the fight regarding the Franklin County Prison, which is going to be a fight which happens during the fiscal session. Part of the fiscal session is going to be more money being dumped into that. Conduit News is kind of keeping up with what's going on. This morning at 9, they had a joint budget committee. Several of the departments are doing salary increases. There is an amendment to SB 41 would prohibit state agencies, including public universities, from funding the King Fahd Center for Middle East Studies, which is basically this is a pro-Islamic agenda that our taxpayer funds are going towards. Shouldn't be allowed at all. Of course, there's money for the governor's executive protection. And so this is some statements that were spoken out in the legislature earlier today. Oh, matter of fact, this is just an update from them. And this is a voting record. This is the best way to try to figure out how your legislature stands in certain issues. And of course, you can see what's going on in the counties as well regarding this issue. Everything from spending. Sorry, Princess Q Leia. I tried to post this as soon as I can. Thank you for being patient with us. But yeah, I try to post this and try to get started, because some people, like, they want to see this as a video, and I can't have silence for too long because it'll If I do, people will be like, "What's going on?" Unfortunately, a lot of people aren't. They just kind of they need me to start saying something immediately. So I gotta, like I said, I'm probably gonna do something where I play some audio beforehand while I do updates for folks. That's a kind of one of the things I'm working on. But in any event, so yeah, basically right now, Little Rock, the city of Little Rock, is run by an anti-American leftist. And just as a reminder, this is from a new website I just found called Rare, and it's a conservative news website. But they talked about this earlier. Mayor Frank Scott Jr. Has some extra pictures. Um, he is pushing for Islam to be the dominant religion in Little Rock. This is War Memorial Stadium, which was not opened for the resurrection, what some call Easter, a few days ago. It was not done for any of the Jewish Passover celebrations. No, it was done for a pedophile death cult, which has caused death and destruction every single place it has ever been allowed, from the Jews to Medina to the Christians in Lebanon, uh, who made the mistake of letting Muslims in. Every time to now Western Europe, every time this so-called religion, this political movement, which does not work well with any other type of ideology, has been has is allowed, it turns that nation into a third world disgusting hellhole where the greed and women's and oppression of women, oppression of minorities is on a scale that these so-called leftists have no idea. Well, they really don't care. Younger generations heavily outnumber the elderly. So what they're doing, and for those who don't know, there's supposed to be a Muslim community that you have to abide by certain sections of the Quran in order to be able to rent in this little section of Little Rock. And here's some pictures with him of these people. And by the way, the Muslims will put on a smiley face when they're the minority, but once they reach a certain level, they will they will begin implementing Islamic law. And then you'll start seeing churches burn. You'll start seeing grooming gangs grabbing little girls, usually white girls. And then, of course, oh, by the way, your government will help protect them. The Pulaski County Sheriff's Office, which actually should be stopping crime, is too busy protecting this pedophile death cult. And the Muslims have been at the Arkansas state capitol praying for supposed peace in Palestine, which, by the way, there's no such thing as Palestine, and there will never be peace in that region as long as Muslims run that place. And they are doing a voter registration drive so they can vote you out. This is the left here trying to register Muslims to get them so they can vote in more people like Frank Scott Jr. And these are what we call useful idiots, these left, and you can tell these people are leftists. They will sit there and let Muslims rob, rape, and murder a country, just like what's happening in England, Ireland. Now, I heard in Ireland that a bunch of the farmers have had enough of this and other issues, and they're basically they're blocking the ports so that there's no fuel to get in. But it is a long way up. And here they are at Central High School, World Hijab Day. And by the way, if there was a Christian version of this, if there was a, dress up like a Christian day, the secular left would be suing to have it removed. But here they are trying to recruit young people into thinking that Islam is this cool, nice, wonderful thing. So yeah, they're doing the Muslim prayers at Central High. So this is a group that's been, like I said, focused on things like this, and they're letting people know. Yeah, I'll probably start doing a countdown of some kind. I need to get a video that shows that. I think it may have it on here. Here, I'll post a link to this so y'all know what I'm talking about. So anyway, as I said before, Islam, under, with the help, but with the blessing of Democrats, is taking over this the capital city of Arkansas. But as I said before, one of the big issues is Republicans are letting it happen. Will Republicans spend close to the $1 million to unseat Frank Scott Jr. like they did trying to keep Brian Norris from becoming Secretary of State? That's the real question, and sadly, it's looking like the answer is no. It's highly unlikely. And the sad thing is a lot of people are going to pay the price. You're going to start seeing churches burn. You'll Sarah Huckabee Sanders may say something against it, but she won't really put forth the effort like the effort that was put forth to try to get a bunch of senators that would bend to her will, which by the way failed. As I mentioned before, if you remember the Arkansas primary elections, the they tried to basically take over the Arkansas Senate. They tried to kick out two incumbent Republican legislatures with people that would be yes votes for Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Chris Caldwell, and then another one they tried to protect, and they failed. And then they spent close to another $1 million to prevent Brian Norris from becoming Secretary of State. There is a lawsuit regarding that. I'm not sure where it's going to go. Matter of fact, I think there's a guy on the Dave Ellswick show talking about that right now. But in the end, folks, it doesn't look like um, they're going to do that. It looks like the Republican-led government's going to be more concerned about trying to give themselves raises. This is from Arkansas Alcatraz. Didn't you get a $20,000 raise? Tracking Arkansas, the state treasurer's office, a bunch of other offices are gonna get propped up. And apparently, Spike Cohen is introducing a "You Are the Power" documentary in Little Rock. I don't know what that is. There's Michael Kalagas. He's a libertarian running for lieutenant governor. There will be a libertarian running for governor. Matter of fact, I think it's Colt Shelby. And based upon the last elections, it looks like it's not going to happen, but we don't know. It's going to be argued in the legislative session that's going on right now. But anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, just to let folks know. You can check me out at Just the Right Angle on Rumble. Email me at justrighteangle at Yahoo if you know of any other stories that are going on. There's lots of fights going on. There's across the nation, people are fighting against these data centers, some of which are succeeding. I don't know. You can comment on the data center that's going to be in Little Rock May 1st, but that may already be a done deal. YouTube's Keep Arkansas Legal, Keep AR Legal on Twitter X, Keep Arkansas Legal on Truth Social, Gab, and I thought I was on Parlor, but I don't think it exists anymore. But anyway, that's about it, folks. I have got other things to do, so I will let you all go. Let me see. Dave Ellswick is talking about that. If it is, I'll just tell people trying to go to them. Every once in a while, he'll talk about things that kind of. Okay, he's talking about the lawsuit that's going on.
We got our earliest certifications hit on Monday of last week. And so we have a couple of weeks right here because we have 20 days to make this determination. And while I'd love to be refiled yesterday and back in court, it's just more prudent from a legal standpoint.
I don't know why.
To digest this information and determine whether or not we want to add it into our ongoing or upcoming lawsuits.
Do you have any thoughts about how you think this is going to play out, or is this all just new territory that's being plowed right now?
Well, Dave, you have to remember that our election contest statutes, so there's statutes about how you challenge an election, and those statutes date back to the end of Reconstruction or to Reconstruction. In Arkansas, when Republicans controlled the government, they put these laws in place to make sure that elections couldn't be cheated, because there was a lot of that going on back then. Just it was pretty rampant. But as the Democrats got control, they diluted it through litigation and case law and precedent. And really, our election contest statutes, in my opinion, are antiquated and they need to be overhauled. I tried when I was a lobbyist about 4 years ago or so now to get Kim Hammer or anybody to overhaul our election contest statutes, and it didn't go anywhere. But I think, I guess to answer your question with that, I preface that to say there's really no telling what's going to happen here. The question is going to be, does the judge think that the results are seriously in doubt? What is the judge going to do is the biggest question that faces a lot of lawyers in a lot of cases, and this one's no different.
All right, so you've kind of brought us up to date on where we're at. We've got to wait until we see what happens. Is that basically is what you're saying? So when you say you have 20 days, is that 20 business days?
No, it's 20 straight days. Okay. 20 days, counting weekends and holidays. And I think I have to go back and look at my notes, but I think that we tagged that date as being sometime, not this, maybe next Monday or the Monday after. I can't remember. I'm not in front of my computer at the moment.
Okay.
But we're watching it. We're tracking it like a hawk.
All right. Well, let's, if something happens, you have Val's number. You give her a call. We'll get you on that day to talk about what has changed. How's that?
Sounds good. And I will be glad to keep you and Val updated and your listeners. And, when I have an update, I'll reach out. Until then, thank you for having me on your show again.
No problem, Clint. I appreciate your time. And as our listeners know, I have a lot of respect for your jurisprudence that you practice. So thanks so much for being a part of the Dave Ellswick Show.
All right. So that was Dave Ellswick. Just giving an update from there. So there's a lawsuit. It's going to be 20 days from now. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. If it does, there might be Brian Norris, might be the Republican nominee. I know a bunch of counties are going to have conventions where they certify the elected officials. And then the state convention is, I believe, in June, where they will certify the candidates. So if this lawsuit goes through, I don't know how that will work either. But irregardless, that's kind of the situation right now. If things stand the way they are, Kim Hammer will be the nominee. But that again leads to a much more interesting point, which is that, again, the Republican Party spent millions of dollars just to try to keep conservatives out of power, but they won't do it to stop a pro-Muslim, pro-BLM, absolute leftist from running Little Rock. And they won't do it to save these blue counties that are in the state as well. Maybe they will if enough pressure is put on them, and maybe they will actually function like a real conservative organization if we can kick the consultant class out of the party the same way Charlie Kirk did a few months before he was murdered regarding Ronna McDaniel. This is what we need here in the state of Arkansas, for this to happen right here. And for the exact same reason. Remember, when the righteous rule, the people rejoice. So keep that in mind. Folks, I've got to head on out. I'm kind of past due for when I just had to saw that breaking news. But y'all stay tuned. I'll try to post and do a better job of